That's what you have to do.
Amen, brother.
All right. Well, welcome to another episode of the Bar Podcast, the Mental Health Hour, hanging out here in Carmel, Indiana. Matt's going to give me a fist bump. I got to get up here. Hanging out in Carmel, Indiana at Indie Coffee Roasters off of Main Street. Diane and her entire team, we thank them. Pretty fantastic place here, right, Matt?
Yeah. How'd you hook that up?
Well, I like people.
Maybe they like you.
Yeah, I like people. So, I live here. We're neighbors, right?
That's
you and I are
correct.
next door neighbors, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
We live maybe 500 yards to the south of where we're sitting.
Which is the best city in Indiana.
It's pretty much the safest.
And or the Midwest.
Yeah. So if you don't know Carmel, Indiana, you should look it up on the internet.
And or you need to realize, like, you're a Wisconsin guy. I'm an Ohio
You got
State
red
guy.
on. I know you got that Ohio State on. And I got like light blue on with Wisconsin today.
I know.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
I think they'd be a little upset.
They might be a little bit upset, but the only thing that matters is that we won today.
All right,
so
good point.
Happy spring, first day of spring. We got a couple people in the audience, Rick and Will. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. We might get a few more people here. You never know. A lot of times they kind of trickle in here and there, but it's pretty kind of fun to do this here.
That's cool. And so what's the following like on YouTube and the comments?
Well, not many right now.
Yeah,
so
I know,
I told you,
I know.
we're a homegrown podcast, buddy.
But I've listened to a couple episodes of yours, and they're definitely coming in. So that's good
news. We're grateful to be able to do this. We wouldn't be able to do this. I always call this out. We wouldn't be able to do this without Clark Crosser and LDR Studios. So we're very grateful to him and his team. He's the one that kind of educated me to the best of my ability to be able to hook all this up, which is pretty impressive.
You're an IT guy.
I'm an IT guy. So I told Diane a little bit earlier, what I'm trying to do is build skills here so that when the time comes that I can quit doing my everyday job, which I'm very grateful for my everyday job, I can maybe be a runner or I can roll cables. That's the guys at the studio have said, hey, you can roll cables now. So I got that going for me.
Amen. And I think that's the thing is.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean, rolling cables is an art. He knows. Will, have you ever rolled cables before? There's an art to it, man. That's exactly right. So anyways, yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful to Clark and his team. We as many of you know, or people that have watched, we do kind of two different types of podcasts. One, this live mental health hour that we do, which is homegrown, so it could be a little clunky for those out there. And then we also do a studio version, which is much more polished because Clark's team's professional.
Okay.
I'm not quite there yet. I'm working on it.
Well, I think that's the thing is like, everything's a mold of clay, right?
Yeah.
You start and you fumble and then you get better and things kind of get a little more rounded off at the edges. Yeah. And next thing you know, you got a work of art.
Well, I don't know about that. We're going to keep trying. That's all we could do, man, is just keep trying. So, well, anyways, as we kind of jump into this, Matt, I appreciate you coming on, man. For those that are listening out there, we are coming to you live tonight, but we also are on streaming services. So you can catch us on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and Podbean. So you can catch us pretty much everywhere on that. So like us, like and subscribe, especially to our YouTube channel. If you get a chance to check it out. Building a Refuge is a men's mental health support group. Been in existence since 2018. Have a pretty good following. We've started, like I said, in 2018. We kind of ran into some snags around COVID, but certainly have gotten our wheels back underneath us in the last few years. And, really excited to have like relationships like this with businesses here in town. And one of the big reasons that I wanted to do this is I love showcasing businesses that are close to home. And quite honestly, Matt, it's one of the big reasons that I wanted to have you come on. You're a local guy here in Carmel. I think you are originally from the Speedway area, if I remember right.
I'm a West Sider by
Thanks
nature.
to your mom for letting me park at the race. Greatest spectacle in racing. But I like to do that. And I thought, what better way to do it than to shoot it here in Carmel, but also have local people come on. And so we're going to have some guests in the near future come on that are local here. We have our guy, buddy Will Frazier, that's come all the way from Shelbyville.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think you might be the furthest guest. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. I think you might be the furthest guest away to come into a live show. So we appreciate you. But we're going to have Will come on, talk a little bit about his organization here in a little bit, but want to get to know you a little bit better, or want the audience to get to know you. So everybody knows that we're neighbors, but tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt.
Well, first off, I want to thank you for inviting me.
Sure.
And
don't be careful doing that right away. So yeah.
Well, but I think ultimately it's super cool. It's just like I said earlier, when you start something, you know, relationships or, you know, podcasts or whatever, you just don't know how everything's going to pan out. And I think it's super cool that, you know, here we are a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, man, I'm doing this thing.
Yep.
And I want you to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I think that's super cool. And so that's why I'm thanking you.
Yeah, of course. Well, you're very welcome. We're going to tee up some pretty cool stuff here in a little bit too that I sent to you last night.
I like to golf, baby.
I know you like, and are you a big hitter?
I can be.
I just bought a new driver. My wife does know
your old one.
Yeah, you can have it. Here's the deal. The technology on it's pretty old though.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Like it's probably 15 years.
Yeah, I'll still take it.
I mean, I kept it nice and I could still hit it, but I knew that I was eventually, you know what? Here's why I knew that I was starting to get behind the world of technology. I played in, I think 2 outings last year.
Okay.
I think 2, if I remember right, 2. And normally I can come away with a long drive out of one of those.
Right.
Dude, I was getting smoked by 50 yards. And I was like, this can't be right.
Are you working out though?
No.
That's the problem.
No, it's not the problem. It's technology.
No.
Because I just upgraded, and I can tell you I'm going to be back in the competition.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
What'd you buy?
There's no doubt. The new Ping G440.
Oh, I love some pings.
Yeah, man.
All right.
See, this is the greatest thing about this podcast, because people think that it's going to be, you know, a pretty heavy discussion. This is real life shit. This is just what we do, you know?
Well, I think the cool part about listening to your podcast is that you can bring a little bit of, you know, just humility.
Yeah.
And, you know, understanding of just how it is to grow up and actually, you know, look at a religious side of things and also look at life itself.
Yeah.
And understand that, you know, it all matters to everyone.
Yeah.
To everyone.
Well, and well, it's a great point, Matt. I mean, we just did a podcast in Wisconsin at a bar. And a lot of people ask us, well, yeah, I mean,
because it is BAR.
Well, it's right. Our acronym is BAR. If you see it up here, it says Building a Refuge Bar. Thanks to Eric Robinson. He came up with this name, and I love it. And I told him one day, I said, Eric, you know our acronym is BAR, right? He's like, oh, I guess it is. And so, but we love it. You know what I mean? Because we had a great discussion there. And actually, my son was on. And as many, I think, of people know out there, my son went through a treatment program, almost coming up on a year sober. So we're really, really proud of him. But a bar is not just a bar. That was what the whole podcast was about. And it was more about community. Sure. Is there drinking that goes on there? Yes. Is there things that people can probably make poor decisions after a lot of alcohol? Yes. I mean, it is what it is. But there's a community there, and that's what we wanted to highlight. So it was pretty cool. But we were at the Helm in downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, and we've done it here too. Like we've done podcasts over at Beer Brewery. That family's a great friends of ours. We've done it at Union Brewing Company. We've done one over at the VFW in Carmel. One of the big things is we're not afraid of meeting guys where they're at. You know what I mean? That's kind of the big, I think, focus that we look at is if we can go and we can set up this homegrown system here, we're going to go do it wherever we can do it. So man. But yeah, that's what we do.
Do you actually like to go to different places?
Yeah,
with this stuff?
Absolutely. I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, as long as we have good upload speed.
Bam.
Mike Parson, if you're listening, you're going to love me for this, because I did an internet speed test to check it. I'm learning. These are skills. See, people think like, man, this is too intimidating for me or whatever. I don't care to F it up, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
And that's how you
because
get better.
I'll learn.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's how you get better
Yeah.
at anything is, if you're going to sit there and think about it all day, you're not going to get anything done.
No.
But if you do it, you mess up.
Yeah.
You're going to find out.
Yeah. You're going to find out.
Yeah.
You're going to have around and find out.
I was just about to say that, but I was like, I don't know.
You can say it, man. We do check the box on here that this is an 18 or older show. So, you can feel free, man. I mean,
right.
whatever you want to say, you can say. All right, Matt. So I want to dive into some other things, but you said you're originally from Speedway, right?
Yes. Well, kind of.
Did you go to Speedway High School?
There's a reason I'm an Ohio State fan.
So you're originally from Ohio?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I was born and raised in Ohio until I was 5 years old. Then I moved to Speedway. Then from there, I moved to Zionsville, Indiana. And then from there, I moved to Switzerland. And then from there, I moved to Illinois. And then from there, I moved back to Speedway.
You're like a postage stamp.
Yes, I am.
So, okay. So where did you go to high school?
I started high school in Cary, Illinois.
Okay.
Which is just outside of,
I think I know where Cary is.
Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
It's also outside of.
It's not very big, is it?
No. Well, it is, but it's not.
Okay.
So I think when I went there was 300 kids in our class alone.
Okay.
Now going from there.
That's the size of Avon. So.
Right. Going from there to Speedway.
By the way, I'm going to interject here. By the way, your wife says OH.
IO, baby.
Yeah. I don't know about that, Rick, but we'll let it slide tonight. Yeah, okay.
And what colors are those? Okay.
Alabama Roll Tide.
Oh boy. So Rick's loving me today.
Yeah, Rick probably is loving you today. But it's all good. It's all good. We all love each other, man. The sun's out, man. We see traffic going by out here. It's pretty cool stuff, man. We try to limit this to an hour. I could sit here and do this for 4 hours, but people get really bored.
You have a knack for
about that. I guess I have a passion for it, right? Stories, man. Stories are interesting.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing is like ultimately for me growing up from, going from Ohio to Speedway to all the places I've been, ultimately it's been a challenge for me to always find new friends because I wasn't homegrown in a small town. And so, for me, it was always interesting learning from other people in other places.
Yeah.
And understanding that their life experiences were completely different than some of the kids that I actually grew up with.
Yeah.
And then, ended up going back to Speedway.
How'd you end up getting to Switzerland though?
So mom liked to marry new guys.
It's okay, Mom. We still love you.
Yeah, we still love you.
I still love her, man. Your mom is fired. She's a good lady.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's great energy, but ultimately she had met someone in Zionsville.
Okay.
And he lived in Switzerland, and they did the When Harry Met Sally thing.
Okay.
And so eventually it turned into, hey, let's get married.
Yeah.
And then mom, she tricked me, and she was like, hey, you want to take a trip out to Switzerland? And so,
oh, by the way, we're not coming back.
So, right. And so I went out there and, just for a little vacation, and I absolutely fell head over heels for this place.
Oh, I bet. How'd you not?
Yeah. And then when he popped the question, she looked at me and she was like, well, he wants to get married. So what do you want to do? And, I'm 14 years old.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I'm like, well, this is a no-brainer. Get me out of Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, go to Switzerland, man. I mean, come on.
Take me to a place that is amazing.
Yeah.
And, the best thing about Europe is that for Americans, there's something new around every corner that you walk around.
Oh, yeah.
But
I've never been to Europe, so it's something that me and Sherry are looking to do this year. And when my family's originally from Norway, is where everybody's kind of from on my side. So we're hoping to get over there, but I have a lot of family that live in England as well. My grandmother is originally from England, and so she grew up just north and kind of, I think, east of the downtown London area. And so, but we'll make it over. But I mean, it's I'm looking forward to that, man.
So my best advice for anybody that is ever thinking about, going across seas is please do.
Just
Just
go.
do it.
Yeah, that's
Just
cool.
do it.
All right, man. So then you came back to the United States. How'd you end up here in Carmel?
So,
I mean, you had a loud ass truck, I know, for a little while. And then you got the letter.
Yes, I did.
You got the letter, and then you bought a caddy, so you're good with the caddy.
Amen. So Brandon and I, being neighbors in a very tight community.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's a tight
People
community.
need to check out Carmeltown, don't they?
Oh man, I love the place that we live in, and I think that's the thing is like I try to tell people like even if they live there, like how good we have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole thing there was 2020 came up.
Yep.
And I didn't know how the real estate market was going to go. So I was just like, you know what? I'll trade it in and, make life a little easier on me.
It was a cool truck though.
Absolutely.
Austin
man.
loved it, man. When you rolled in, he's like, I like that truck.
Oh, dude, I loved it.
I did too.
I kind of want it back. I thought about that today, actually. I was like, man, I should have not gotten rid of it.
Yeah.
Because Scott's getting his cabinets done and that truck was outside.
Yeah, no,
was like,
it was almost your same. Is it your same one? Very similar.
I mean, it's same white.
Yeah.
Wheels set up. But
all right. So another question I got for you is you just mentioned this, the real estate market. So you are a realtor.
I am.
Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about because I had a really good friend of mine about a year ago, Brian Fredrickson. Brian and I were he worked for me, one of my sales reps at a previous job. We just got to be really good friends. Brian left that company and got into real estate. And so he works out of an organization that I think is based, if I remember right, it's based out of Fort Wayne, but he's in Westfield, Noblesville. And he's not really kind of tied to any boundaries or anything like that because it's a private realtor. But we had a fantastic discussion, man. So I'm curious of your perspective on this as well. But we had a really cool discussion just around the pressures of running kind of your own business as a realtor. So
the different hats that you wear, like you putting this podcast together, you working corporate, you doing the things that you do that make life work. But it's different in the fact that you actually are running a business.
Yeah.
And you have to market, you have to actually, get paperwork in, you have to do this.
So you mean you don't only work 3 days a week?
There are days, and I think that's a cool thing about real estate is that anybody can make their business whatever they want to make their business.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is like, do we want to scale up? Sure. But, there's sometimes where I'm like, oh my God, like my mom will sell 30 to 50 homes a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Your mom hustles, man.
Yeah. And I want to sell 20.
Yeah. Yeah. How's the market right now?
The market,
I mean, because that's kind of the big question, right? With like interest rates, I know they just dropped a little bit, but way the market just in general is right now nationally, it's, I think, if you listen to the media, like I told people, I said, hey,
that's the worst thing.
Listen, I was like, hey, why don't you guys listen to Building a Refuge podcast tonight rather than the nightly news? Because it's going to be a lot more fun. And I can give you the weather. I mean, if you guys want to give you the weather, I can tell you right now, it's a little chilly outside. It's partly cloudy. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit more less cloudy and a little warmer.
Amen.
I mean, I'm a weather guy now.
Yep. Hey, you put that hat on too.
I got a 50-50 shot of being right.
Right.
So, But yeah, I mean, how's the market?
So ultimately, it's really strange from county to county right now, and also from area to area.
Yeah.
So I've got a Fountain Square home under contract right now,
Yeah.
and it has been on the market for 140 days.
No kidding. So did somebody come in at asking or under?
Oh, we came in under. So here's the thing: is like
because
when a buyer and a real estate agent, for that matter, when they see that you've been on the market for X amount of days, the buyer and the real estate agent are going to smell blood in the water.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, what's wrong with the home? First off. Secondly, they're going to go, well, obviously,
how bad do you want out of it?
Obviously, this isn't the price that's going to do it.
Right.
And so, I actually started doing resale in 2006. I fell flat on my butt, didn't know how to get business.
Yeah.
And then I got back into resale in 2009, 10. And I really started rolling in about 11 and 12. But the idea is that from 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, so on, we were looking at homes sitting on the market for 90 to 140 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so my buyer in Fountain Square found a great deal in Fountain Square. I mean, a beautiful street. And, the price is pretty palpable.
What's the ballpark on that? You don't have to give me an exact price, but
I've got 2 clients down there right now. The one that's currently buying, she's buying a $275,000 2-bedroom, 2 full baths, and 1 great room.
Yeah, but great area. I mean, now the Fountain Square has been, completely kind of revamped.
It's a lot like Carmel.
We had a guest on, and Rick knows our guest, Dakota King. He's a great young man, great singer, great story. So check his podcast out on our channel. You can check it out everywhere. But he was telling me he goes, "Yeah, I grew up in Fountain Square when it wasn't so nice."
But here's the thing, like, the money all started downtown. Though the money all started downtown.
Yeah.
And then it, as the donut theory keeps going out.
Yeah.
Holy moly,
I'm glad though, man, because like
Kokomo.
that area downtown is pretty cool, man. That whole Fountain Square, Irvington area is pretty neat place.
Well, I have a theory, and it goes like this: Broad Ripple got too expensive for all the artsy people, and as the artsy people kept growing up and getting
artsy
older,
people are cool though. We love artsy people.
Absolutely. And dude, I'm an artsy person, but
you are?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
All right.
I'm not super buttoned up.
I feel like you're a little artsy.
I can be.
Not super buttoned up. I feel like you're okay. I just had to check the sound. I needed to make sure our sound. Every now and then, I got to do a sound check. See, here's the deal. You said this earlier. I am AV guy. I'm not only setup guy, and I am IT guy, but I'm also audio visual check the sound guy.
Absolutely. You're a marketing guy too. You put the building a refuge right there. Boom.
Well, yeah, it's right there. I can tell people go to our Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all that. And then if I scoop my fat ass out of the way, I can even show them a Q code here. They can donate.
You are so not fat. Shut up. So what else are you asking here about?
Well, I was just asking about the market, man. Like, how is it today? Because, we've kind of gone through some ups and downs recently. I mean, we probably see it here in Carmel because, home prices in Carmel are anywhere from $5 million to 150,000, and the 150,000 are less than 0.5% of what's available here anymore.
Absolutely. But, okay, so that kind of ties into the question you asked earlier.
Yeah.
How did I get up to Carmel?
That's right.
So, living in Speedway, my mom had gotten hooked up with Remax Ability Plus here in Carmel, and ultimately I hooked up with her with Remax Ability Plus, and the office was up north.
Okay, I got you.
And mom has a lot of clientele from Zionsville.
Yep.
So it worked out well for her.
Yeah.
She'll go anywhere from, the northeast side.
But you have an office. You have an office in downtown Carmel now, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
At the Indiana Design Center.
You guys open? You guys open to shooting a podcast there sometime?
Absolutely, brother.
Just check your upload speed.
So I'll let you know.
Yeah, no, it'd be cool.
I actually had a podcast I don't know. Let's call it 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But otherwise, that was the beginning of podcasts. And,
Right.
And then, of course, the market, it was rolling fast, and I just didn't have the time because, Lord knows I can get a client that's like, hey, I want to go look at this house at this time.
Right.
I only have this time to list my house, and so I didn't really have a good grasp on how to keep the actual timing right, and which I have a lot of kudos to you for actually being able to juggle all that.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we got a lot of help too, man. I say I do a lot of this on my own, and I do. I mean, I'm not going to be shy about it, but we have a ton of help. Rick Purcell's here. Rick's been a great help to us in all the events, and we're grateful to him and his wife Colleen. I mean, they come out and help. Will's been a great help to push things out. Look, man, I'm blessed that we have as many guys that have become a part of this organization to help it continue to, whether it's a baby step forward or it's big steps, in running any business, because that's what you can call it, a nonprofit, you can call it whatever it is, but it's a business. You got to run it that way. And so sometimes you have baby steps that take you forward, and you have some really large steps that take you forward.
Sure.
You know what I mean? This happens to be being able to do this and being able to get content out is a large step, you know. And it's interesting because we first started doing this, and this will probably bridge to another question that I'm going to have for you. And then, Will, I want here in a minute, I want you to come on because I got another question that I'm going to tee up here in a minute too that I sent to Matt. That I think is really cool, that I think we're going to start to adopt a little bit more. But my point to all this is that, you know, Clark, when he came to us, Clark Crosser, when he came to us organically, like I didn't know Clark from Adam, you know what I mean? And so he came to us at a meeting, and Clark lost his son. I believe it was in 2020, by suicide. And
Bummer.
so, as everybody knows, I lost my brother as well in 2015, and I happened to lose my stepsister in 2022. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, so, you know, I always tell people this. I never felt like I was compelled to have to do this. I just, where I'm from, and the people that I've been around in my life, when something like this happens, it seems like there's a red flag that gets like kind of put up, right? And
Sure.
so, you know, we just, me, Eric, Mike Rekoff, who I just hung out with last night a little bit. You know, we were hanging out in a coffee shop, much like this, having coffee. And we were like, you know, there's nowhere for dudes just to come and hang out.
Right.
And here's the thing. I don't give a shit if there's 50 of us in this room, or there's 5 of us, or there's 10, or there's 20, or whatever. To me, it's all about getting content out. And so if we can continue to do interviews like this, and I love your perspective of this, because why I thought of you, Matt, is you put a post out on Facebook, and we're going to get there in a minute.
Yep.
But content is important. I do know this, that by us being able to get to streaming services, so us to be able to get to Spotify and Amazon and Apple and, you know, iHeartRadio and all that, YouTube, whatever, people like to listen to this kind of stuff on their own. Okay. So whether I have 100 people watching tonight,
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love doing it. But whether I have 100 people doing it tonight, or I have one person on here, I don't care.
Right.
Because one, I enjoy hanging out with you and learning from you. I love your perspective of things. I love hearing your story. I love, you know, being able to do this, sit outside, watch people walking along the road and seeing what we're getting to see. You know, Diane and her family and husband, man, they're so kind. I mean, they live next door here. Cool. She brews us coffee. She's like, hey, there's some croissants and stuff for you guys. I mean, to me, it's love. And that's at the end of the day what it's all about, man. So I don't give a shit how many people are like watching right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Love and connections.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that,
because I do believe this, man,
kind of want to do as well, as you want to reach out and make some connections.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe this, man. I believe this at some point in time will hit somebody at some point, and even better things will come our way.
I got something for you.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I got something for you.
So I'm
going to get this seat set up for Will. So keep going.
So at the Indiana Design Center, we had March Madness today. And so we do a party every year for March Madness. And one of my buddies, an absolute great buddy of mine, I've been hanging with him for the last 10 years. And he recently lost his girlfriend to suicide. And that was 3 years ago. I say it recently because it still feels recently. And then on top of that, he lost his brother.
Really?
Yeah. And I told him,
how long, like how much of a time gap was there?
Oh, I don't know for the brother versus the girlfriend.
Yeah.
But there's a third person in there that he mentioned, and I can't remember who it was, but you know, it made me realize, you know, that I'm talking to him, and he seems pretty healthy these days. However, I watched it.
Yeah.
I watched the complete, you know, destroying factor.
Yeah.
That, you know, was his everyday life after she left.
Yep.
And it's tough.
Yeah, man, it is.
But I say that to say this, which is he now knows.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah.
And that's another,
yeah,
you know, connection.
And that's all I can hope for is that, you know, somebody hears us. And if you are listening and you're listening to this point, there's one thing I want you to know. Don't let this become so big of a mountain that you can't climb it. I can promise you this. Like
life,
come out,
does that to
come.
you.
Yeah, it does. There's no shit and doubt about it, dude. You're 100% correct. Come out to one of our events. We have some coming up here. We have an event on March 29th.
Okay.
At Harley Davidson. So we're doing a cornhole tournament. We'll probably do some barbecuing, hanging out, just a bunch of dudes. Be basketball on. We're going to talk a little bit about that too. And then we have another event coming up on April 26th. So we do monthly meetings. April 26th is going to be at the VFW in Carmel. We're doing a pig roast.
Okay, cool.
That's a lot of fun. They're the ones that are hosting it. They just reached out to me in Austin and said, "Hey, would you guys want to roast a pig for us?" I was like, "As long as we can do a building a refuge meeting." They're like, "Heck yeah, man, come on."
Easy peasy.
So we're going to do a meeting there. And then the month of May, we are going to take the entire month to do kind of mini fundraisers to build up to our June 7th Rock and Ride for Hope, which is our kind of pillar fundraising event. So if you're listening and you want to donate or you want to be a sponsor, we are a 501c3. We'd love to have you. Just reach out to us. You can email me at buildingarefuge@gmail.com. But that's a really fun event. We're going to have multiple resources there. We're going to have everything from addiction centers to counseling to I think we will have stigma-free fixtures there. I'm not 100% sure yet, but we'll see. We're also going to have our VA arm. So for our veterans, thank you all very much for your service, but we'll have a VA representative there. We're going to have a great day, man. Motorcycle ride, music, food. I just tell everybody this, just come out and hang out, because what you're going to find is you're going to go, wow, this is not in my mind what I thought a mental health meeting was going to be like.
Sure.
And if we can do that, Matt, shit.
So is it truly a meeting?
We call it a meeting.
Yeah, but
it is a meeting.
It's more or less like people.
I mean, this is
together.
Technically a meeting, but is it a meeting?
Right. Good point.
But
I'm just asking.
Yeah. It's a great ask.
I didn't know if there.
Well, let me ask you this:
if there was an agenda or whatnot.
Do you think it's a meeting? Does it feel like a meeting?
Well, no, not us.
That's what I wanted to hear.
You're my neighbor, brother.
But that's what I wanted to hear right there. It doesn't feel like a meeting.
No, but everything to a real estate agent is a meeting.
It's right. It's fair. I mean, that is true. I mean, you're not lying, man. I mean, it's a meeting, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Connection. It's all about connection.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if you don't reach out, then you don't know. It's like, you know, if you don't ask,
you don't know. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, make your way over here, Will. We have Will Frazier that's going to come in and hang out with us because I want to tee up a couple other questions. I've known Will now for a little while, and we've met a couple of different times and get all settled in there. You can fix this however you want it, Will. Just don't break anything because Clark will charge me for it. So, and you can loosen it, raise it, level it, whatever. But so Matt, I'm going to let you kind of talk on this, but you put a post out probably a couple months ago. I really appreciate you doing this. I think it was very vulnerable of you, but I think it was also very courageous of you, man. And you shared some insight to yourself of some things that you were going through. So do you mind like just kind of high level in that?
Absolutely. I think ultimately for me, it was probably 2 years ago. And I just thought, it's so funny because 2020 threw us all for a loop in a different way. And we all have different experiences.
COVID, right? Like time through COVID. Yeah,
absolutely. And it threw us for a loop in different ways. And depending on who you are and what time it was in your life, and then the experience that you took out of it. And for me, I was 40 years old. No, I was 40. Yep. I was 41. And I was losing my hair, and all of a sudden, I got sediment, and I sat on my butt, and I didn't get out. I couldn't get out in my own mind. Yeah. I mean, I could have, but I made an excuse. And so, 5 years later, I just was like, oh my gosh, like it set me back mentally in a dark hole. And then real estate in 2024 was just horrendous. Real estate in 2023 was starting to get bad, but otherwise, with all of those things adding up, it kind of came to a point where I literally was
now you're hot. Now you're hot.
I was like, all right, I've had enough, and
Yeah.
and I'm ready to live again, because I kind of looked in the mirror and I was like, dude, this is you now,
Yeah.
and screw the past, because here we are now,
Yeah.
and now I love you this way.
Yeah.
And when I could, grasp that and understand that, I'm just a new guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just me learning how to deal with who this new guy was, looking in
Right.
the mirror.
Right.
Then I was like, okay, now I'm good. And I kind of want to do something to let the world know that 2020 is still giving
Yeah.
us a hangover.
Yeah. No, man. I mean, I really appreciate you doing it, man, because I mean, it takes a lot of courage to put something out on social media today. It just does. And
Sure.
I think from a vulnerability aspect, you probably saw a lot of people who were like, man, thanks, Matt, for doing this. I know I read through a lot of your the comments of your friends, and
it was impressive.
Yeah. And I just think that is, it's courageous. And I'm telling you, man, like I've seen this enough in what we do, courage is contagious.
Amen.
So when you get somebody that gets up and tells a story, we've seen it at many of our meetings, because we will never, so if you're listening, we will never expect you to get up and do anything. We'll never expect you to come tell a story. We're never going to expect you to do anything. Just come hang out with us. But inevitably, somebody does want to share a story. And so what happens is somebody gets up and tells a story, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, shit, I can do that. You know what I mean? And that's cool.
Or I resonate with that.
Yes, I can walk in those shoes.
Yeah.
I can walk in those shoes. So, all right, Will Frazier, man, thank you for coming on. What are your thoughts around that, man? I mean, just around vulnerability. You and I have had a lot of discussion, so our audience doesn't know that. But well, let's back up a little bit.
Let me answer that question real quick, though.
Yeah.
I think with vulnerability, I think the human heart longs for vulnerability.
Yeah.
At the same time, being scared to death of being vulnerable.
Totally.
Because to be vulnerable, you're opening something up that could get wounded. You are sharing something precious and special and fragile. And what happens if that's not received well? And then as men,
it's scary.
We have to be stoic. We have to be hard. We have to deal with our emotions. Don't show emotions.
Yeah.
But we need that. That's part of humanity.
But here's the other thing. Part of the world is out there right now, and I know we're kind of conditioned as the guys, right? We're kind of conditioned this way. To your point, we're conditioned to be like, I don't care, F you.
Yeah. Or hold it in.
Yeah.
Be a man.
Be a man. That's right.
That emotional constipation does some damage.
Yeah, totally it does. Totally it does. I love that emotional constipation. That's a fantastic. I like that.
Was it our generation? I don't know.
It could have been
my parents' generation for sure.
Amen. And
into us,
and the generation before them.
Yeah,
like literally,
absolutely.
There was a different life.
Yeah.
And now here we are, a little more free.
Yeah.
To be a little more open.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask Rick's in the audience, man. I mean, Rick, you're probably, I don't mean this in any way, closer to that generation, right? I mean, do you agree with that? Yeah. Yeah, it's something else. And I think what happens is we get conditioned, right? I mean, and then it's hard to get rid of that conditioning.
Yeah, because part of that conditioning is the facade of what we think a man should be. Don't cry, hold it in, be tough, suck it up, buttercup, right? But what happens when the heart needs to breathe?
Don't share your vulnerability, right? Don't share your cracks in your armor.
Yeah. There
was a really cool, like, I can't remember, and I apologize. I'm going to apologize to the audience, and I'll apologize to you guys for this, but it was an article that I read not long ago. Well, it's probably a little while ago, but like I think it's in Japan. Like if they have a family.
Yes. I've seen that, yeah.
So like if they have a family heirloom, like a bowl or whatever, and it's got cracks, and over time it's dropped and it's broken and this and that, they fill these cracks with gold to hold the bowl together over time. And there's a real long meaning of why they do this and why they do it with gold, actually, to keep it, to bond it. Sure. It's a really cool read. If I can find it, I'll put it out on our web, like our website or whatever. But I just think that's kind of fascinating in terms of like, if you look at that like a human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In terms of kind of bonding, from our cracks that we get throughout life. Because you mentioned earlier, life can be a kick in the ass.
Well, and I think that's another thing too, is like, in my 40s, I'm starting to realize like it all compounds. And that's the weird thing as a father myself.
Yeah.
Of a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
Telling him that every year in school, like, dude, This is just you graduating to another hoop that you have to jump through.
Yep.
And so life is asking you to grow just like a flower, just like a tree, just like anything. But man, the struggle for a tree to grow, for a flower to grow in March, I mean, you got a 70-degree day. You got a 70-degree day.
On
next day it's snowing on you. That's just life, man. And embrace it, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to go back. Tell everybody, Will Frazier, you're from Shelbyville, right?
Yes.
And that, did you grow up in Shelbyville?
No, I grew up in Washington State.
Okay. How'd you end up in Indiana?
I ended up in Indiana. How most guys end up in Indiana. You marry a Hoosier.
Okay.
Okay. There you go. That's good reason.
All right. Did she warm you up to the fact?
No, it kind of came
like,
quick.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah, so we met in grad school. We both went to Dallas Theological Seminary.
He's way smarter than we are.
You say that. You say that. I see what you do. You're being too modest here.
He's way smarter than we are.
He's running circles around me. But anyways, so we met. We were finishing up school. She graduated a year ahead with her master's, and then I after. And then this was back in the days of Rand McNally. And you had your Garmin GPS.
Yeah, buddy. I still keep a Rand McNally in the car.
Right, absolutely. And so she
because if this goes down, the Rand McNally will get you there.
In my bag right now.
Yep.
Are we talking maps?
Rick, you know what a Rand McNally is? Yeah, come on. See?
All right. That was great that you asked that to clarify it for the audience.
Yeah, I love it.
In case they
so
didn't know.
For all you out there, just put a Rand McNally in your car. You might need it someday.
Yes. So I get home, she opens it up, places it on the coffee table, and it's this big image of Indiana with all the state, the cities. And she said, so when we finish, where in Indiana do we want to live? Do we want to do Indianapolis or be near my folks in the Fort Wayne area? And I got offended because I said, sweetheart, why are you assuming we're just going to do the Midwest? Why are we not even considering the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah.
And then she hustled me. She knew me so good, right? She said, Will, do you really want to live near your parents and your family?
Oh, I love it.
And I
Smart
said,
lady.
Tell me about Indianapolis. I'm thinking more larger city right here. More opportunities.
I could see the percentage thing just go up. Like it went from 20 to 40 immediately.
No, it went to 95. It was done deal. We were moving.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So also share with the audience, because we're going to do another one just so for everybody to understand this. We're going to have Will come back on. We're going to dig a little deeper into this, Will, but just share with the audience a little bit about kind of what your mission is and what you do.
Yeah. My mission is I help guys to understand that there's always hope. And specifically, for those who are Christian men, there are expectations of how you ought to live life. And yet at the same time, 90% of Christian men are struggling with pornography. And if you're following God, then you know that, nudity and sex and images outside of marriage is not cool. So what does it look like? And how does it impact the mental health of a Christian man who's living a life that he can't change within his own power, and he's living this hypocritical kind of lifestyle? And so, that was my story. I struggled with pornography after I got saved, and that was the one thing I could not shake. It was the hardest battle. Long story short, 13-year fight to freedom. I now have freedom. God took my biggest shame. He redeemed it and turned it into my biggest blessing.
He'll do that.
Like you with the vulnerability, getting it out and then saying, hey, all right, if this is what you want me to do, Lord, I'll do it. And he said, hey, I want you to tell your story. I want you to help other guys. And that's what birthed Complete Holiness.
Yeah, man.
And that's the ministry I have, where I help guys understand there's always hope. There's victory in Jesus. He already has that victory paid for you.
Amen,
now
buddy.
Go out and fight and get it.
Yeah, that's right.
And just launched a membership community called Freedom Fighters, where men can kind of join this. It's like a fight club. It's a on the go, as you live life community, where we can come together and lock shields and know that there are brothers who have your back. Because a lot of times, I'll say this, is that men struggle with pornography because they're keeping it secret. There's the shame, there's the failure, the guilt, the remorse, the embarrassment. And a lot of these guys are not perverts.
Right.
When you got 90% of Christian men struggling, you've got godly men who are chasing after the heart of God. And they have this monkey on their back. So what does it look like to find that freedom? And nothing grows in darkness except bad stuff. And so when they're hiding this and they can't get it out, or they don't get it out, they're not getting anywhere. So we provide a safe place for men to come to share their story and to receive, the relationship and camaraderie and just doing this together. Two are better than one.
Man, I love it, Will. So for those that are listening, man, we're gonna do a kind of an isolated podcast on, so we can kind of jump into this a little bit more. But I just think it's amazing for you that are listening as well. A lot of times we will get into these discussions, and I want to make sure people understand, like, we are a faith-based group of men, put it that way. Okay. And we just wrapped up, and if you haven't gone out to listen to it, you can check it out again on all streaming services, but we just wrapped up a series in Romans, and we'd go through chapters 1-8. But if anybody knows the book of Romans, 8:1, that there's no condemnation in Christ Jesus, right? And we spend a lot of time there because that's a pretty cool place to be. And so to your point, Will, with everything that you're doing and guys that are out there struggling, Christian men or non-Christian men, whatever, don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to allow that to take place and to kind of take root within oneself. Because I can tell you this, like I tell people on the last podcast we were doing, Pursuing the Heart, I'm just like, if you had told me 10 years ago that I'd be doing a podcast on that, I'd be like, you're crazy, dude. Like, you're out of your mind. There's no way I'm going to do that. But I can tell you this much, man. We try to do things. I don't know if we try. Try is probably not the right word. We just do things a little different. And I don't know if it's different. We just do what we do.
Amen.
And faith is a part of that. But what I want to make sure people understand is we're not a bunch of heebie-jeebie weird dudes that are going to put a lot of expectation on you.
Right.
Just to your point, right? Because that can happen.
Right.
And if you fastball and you speed pitch religion at somebody, they're going to run out that door faster than you can even hear the door shut.
Especially today.
Yeah.
I think that's the weird part is like how different, information has changed this world. Coming from the 50s,
yeah,
you only had a couple books to choose from.
Right. No, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And in this world, there's so much information flying at you. But here's the best part. In real estate, there's so much information flying at you from Zillow, Realtor.com, wherever. Mm-hmm. But if you don't talk to a real estate agent that does it every day, that's wisdom.
Yeah, you can't interpret it. Yeah.
That's wisdom. And I think that's the cool part is that if you are in your ministry and you are in it and you have experience, that's wisdom. And I think for anyone that goes, well, it's a bunch of hooey fooey. Well, okay, that's fine. But why don't you listen to someone that's been there and done it?
Yeah.
That's wisdom.
Well, that's why, with you, Will, I'm grateful. We've been trying to do this. And like I said, man, I'm very grateful for you to make the trip over here because I know it's a good hour drive for you. And I'm excited about having you come on and us just kind of dive into this a little bit more in terms of your experience, what you've done with it, the kind of mission and ministry that you've been on with it, because I think it is important. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of guys out there that struggle with this. I know when I went through what's called the Great Banquet, we had a number of men that, were struggling with that and that's impacted their life greatly. You know what I mean? Whew.
Yeah. I mean, as men, we have a hard time with failure.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up, we feel like we've got to have it all right.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with failure on all levels? Because there's a lot of things that contribute to somebody coping with pornography. And here's a crazy statement I'll make. If you're struggling with pornography is not the problem.
That's right.
We think it's the problem because that's what's bubbling up to the surface. That's the behavior that's causing chaos. Pornography is a symptom of the problem.
That's right.
You've got to get to the root of that. And so a lot of times what's going to happen is guys are going to try to do it themselves. I'm going to try to do this. And what they're going to do is they're going to try to stop the activities around seeking pornography.
Yep.
But what that does is that simply picks off the rotten fruit off the tree, but it doesn't get to the root to say, why is the root producing the rotten fruit?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the healing begins into your journey. Like, listening to the people who have accomplished and who have done that. It took me 13 years to find freedom. Yeah. And it was, and to this day is the hardest battle I've ever fought.
Sure it was, man.
And to get there, I did a lot of things, but I didn't have a roadmap. And so my mission is, if you're struggling out there, you don't have to struggle alone. Let's lock shields. Let's do this together. Let me journey with you because everybody needs a guide. Frodo had his Gandalf right?
Yeah.
And so everybody has somebody that they could use so they can fulfill the hero's mission in their life.
Yeah,
story.
and I mean that's one of the things like we do. We want to make sure, because even your organization, what we have on our website, again, for people listening, building a refuge. I'm not a clinical therapist. I didn't go to school for it. I've lived some long, challenging, dirty roads. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, and what I've done.
That's Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's right. Probably had a few beers along the way, but I only say that because it's life experience, and I just said, F it. I'm just going to do something with what I know, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to do it. And so you all get to enjoy it. Maybe if you're enjoying it, I don't know. But more importantly, we're a resource refuge is what we are. So if somebody, and this is what's so cool about it, because if somebody comes to me, and I just had this discussion the other day again with somebody at lunch, I said, listen, man, I said, here's what we are. If somebody comes to me and they say, hey, listen, do you know somebody that can help my husband? He's addicted to porn. I would think of Will right away.
How do you guys know each other?
And I would call Will and I would say, hey, Will, would you have time to talk to this guy? I'll meet you for coffee. And I know this guy well enough. He'd be like, sure, let me just check my schedule. Let's work it out.
Yeah, that's right.
I know that 100%. Same thing with him. If he called me and said, hey, I think I got a guy that would be really interested in doing or being a part of this, I'd be like, absolutely. Where do you want to meet? But anyway, so Will reached out to me. I'm not exactly sure if I remember how you found out about building a refuge.
Mark.
Mark Grosser. Yeah. Shout out to Mark Grosser, local jeweler right here in Carmel, Indiana. One of the finest. Yeah, man, that's right. Mark Grosser. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, dude. Mark's awesome.
Yeah, I like him. I came across him. I forget how I found out about him.
Mark's a super great guy. Him and his wife are amazing.
Yeah, they are. He actually custom made this ring I have.
Yeah, he literally, he's one of the best jewelers, and he is like a guy that has just got 40 plus years of experience doing it.
Sure.
And he didn't go to any like fine art school for it. It's just a long road of making mistakes, and I won't do that again.
It's called
but
wisdom.
he does amazing work, man. Like some of the rings, I'm sure, like he's done some really cool stuff.
Let's see it, Will. I like it.
Yeah, it's a ring with a 3-dimensional crown of thorns, 360 degrees around it.
Yeah.
No other
That's
ring
right.
like
I forgot, man. That's right, man. God, Mark, I love you. I hope you're listening, buddy. Good shout out to you, bud.
Very cool.
I was getting this made, and then he did so well. My mom saw this. She's like, I want one too.
Yeah.
She got one made, and
let me see it. I don't think I've ever seen it, man.
Yeah, and so I was talking to him, and we talked about what I did and why I wanted a ring like this. And he said, "Yeah, you should talk to these guys at bar." And I'm like,
I like that.
That's a crazy acronym.
Yeah. And I was like, does building a refuge know that I'm kind of crazy? Like, do they really want to talk to me?
How crazy are we talking, Will?
Well, you got a guy here talking about, hey, I struggle with porn. There's hope for you, and let's get after it.
Yeah, man.
We talk about vulnerability and getting out there, and slamming it on my LinkedIn page.
Yeah, but you know what? So so I go to church at Leavener. We meet in a bar, and sometimes people are like, "Oh, that's weird," and I'm like, "Nope, it's not weird at all. It's great because it's free." That's why it's amazing. And Rusty Kennedy, who I love endlessly, the guy I will subscribe to the man for the rest of my life because he gets it. He gets it. And that's what the community is all about. But anyways, so just last week, 2 weeks ago, we're going through the book of Samuel. I had to think for a second because I'm not great at this. So pardon me, Will. But through the book of Samuel anyways, we're talking about David and Goliath. And so it was funny because I had texted him and I said, man, that's such a great question to ask people. What's your Goliath?
Yeah.
Everybody has a Goliath.
Everybody's got a Goliath.
Amen.
Yes.
And addiction to porn, addiction to alcohol, addiction to gambling, addiction to anything is a Goliath.
Yes. Yeah. There is
super cool.
Yeah. Everybody's got a demon to fight, and it's a hard one for that person, whatever it might be. And if you're lucky, it's only one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, no, that's right. And so I didn't know that about that story, that when he picked up, when David picked up a stone, he picked up 4, not 1. And he took care of his brothers, or 5. Yeah, five. Sorry. No, you're right. But he picked up 5 stones.
Yeah.
Five smooth stones.
I was not
Yeah.
aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know it either.
Yeah.
I just learned that recently.
Here's what's amazing about the story of David, which I love.
Which I think is great, man.
Yeah.
And I love it because I can kind of see the sunset right now, which is really super cool.
There goes the squirrel.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man, but when I see it, I can't deny it.
Yeah. We read the story of David. You got this young kid standing up against a 9-foot giant.
Yeah.
He is defying the army of Israel and defying the God of Israel.
Yep.
Saul, the tallest and largest man in Israel, the king of Israel, should be the one who stands before God's people and says, I will fight this battle with you. Because again, Goliath was doing a one-on-one challenge.
That's right.
Instead of our armies fighting and us all, I will fight to represent my army, and you pick a fighter, and whoever wins is the victor.
Right.
And nobody on Israel's side showed up, but David did. And
David did.
He was a crazy guy. He came up and said, "Who are you?" Like I'm going to feed you to the dogs.
Yeah.
He's coming with his sling.
That's right, man.
Goliath looks at him.
Great story.
Yeah. Goliath looks at him and says, "Who are you to bring this
wussy?"
To me,
because he's a little guy.
And he's like, "I'm going to tear him up." And David runs after him and knocks him with the stone.
Yeah.
But see, we all want to have the heart of a David on the battlefield, especially guys. We've got demons to fight. We got Goliaths to fight.
Yep.
We need to and want to have the heart of David. But see, here's the thing that encouraged me. Yes, David knew how to use a sling. Yes, he faced lions and bears in the past.
Yep.
But what he had, and what was the most important thing he had, was the Spirit of God resting upon him.
That's exactly right.
If you go a few chapters or verses before, it talked about how the Spirit of God rested upon David.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm excited
I
over
love
here.
it, dude. I love
Right.
it. I love it. I love it.
And the Bible says we have to work out our own salvation, which means we have to work out our own victory. But it is God who also works in us to will and to work for his good pleasure.
Yeah.
Jesus has promised us victory, just like he gave the Israelites the promised land. And this is your inheritance. But how did they get that promised land? What did they have to do?
Yeah, that's right.
They had to fight for
that's right. They did.
Yeah,
man. It's a cool, like, and I'm not a big one on the theatrics of like movies and so on and so forth, but the recent House of David show that's on Prime is pretty good. Like, it follows along pretty well the book of Samuel and the story of David. I'll say pretty well as I know it anyways. And I know there's some people out there that have kind of said, yeah, it's a pretty good deal. All right.
Is it entertaining?
I mean, do you know the book? Have you been through? So if you know, I mean, I know you. I mean, you got a Bible study.
It's a good dramatization.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be theatrics in, and they're gonna do it for entertainment purposes.
Right.
But
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's
fun.
entertaining. Yes, yeah. All right, so we're at an hour, but I saved this question for the last because we have 8 minutes left. And so,
oh boy,
what do you think we can do with 8 minutes?
Well, I mean, you sent me that text yesterday, and I asked you what the premise of today's, talk was going to be, and he sends me the reel that shows whatever actor that is.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name, but irregardless, doesn't matter.
He said that his friend was having some major issues in their lives, and ultimately he was like, why didn't you call me while you were having this issue?
Yep.
And the friend was like, well,
I did reach out.
Right.
Yeah.
I tried, but and he was like, what do you mean you tried? Because I didn't.
He's like, yeah. He's like, look at all the text messages that I sent you.
Right. And so he was like, all right, so from now on, this point forward, we're going to go ahead and make a code for that, which is, do you have 8 minutes? Because 8 minutes can get you out of a meeting or whatever.
Yep.
To just be able to,
anybody can do anything
call.
In 8 minutes.
Amen.
So there's a little bit further dialogue around this, and thanks for teeing that up, Matt, because this is exactly, and I purposely put this on at like 1 hour so we can talk for 8 minutes.
Cool.
And we'll be like, we've talked about a lot. So there's a lot of statistics and kind of I'll say scientific background to this, that by just picking up a phone call from somebody, you can accomplish so much in 8 minutes. And the way the brain reacts for just by somebody listening to you, you text me and say, hey, Brandon, you got 8 minutes. And I pick the phone up and I call you. Just simply by me responding to you, what it does to the brain is amazing. The positive endorphins, the positive chemical reactions that happen in the brain are astronomical for somebody that does not get the response essentially that they're looking for, right?
Interesting.
So the meaning of it essentially is, and I was talking to one of my friends about this last night too, that you have to be able to reach out. So even for all of us here, Rick, me, you, Matt, Will, if you guys ever need anything and you text me and say, hey, do you got 8 minutes? I'm going to know, like, I need to call this guy.
Mhm.
But I know that I can step out of anything that I'm doing for 8 minutes. And
Right.
that's kind of the whole premise of that is like, do you have 8 minutes? So one of the things that we're going to try to start to adopt here, which I'll probably do some print stuff and blah, blah, blah. But I'd love to do a t-shirt, you know, that at least on the back of it says, do you have 8 minutes? Because somebody's going to go, what does that mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? So anyway, so yeah, what do you think about that?
That is amazing. I think the hardest thing is for guys to have the vulnerability
Yep.
to reach out and say, I need help.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, we feel like we want to do it ourselves. We don't want to be a burden to somebody else. We may be embarrassed, or we may not have the muscle memory of reaching out in vulnerability. But one of the things I do, like the community, we have a monthly challenge. Every month there's a theme. And in this community, I put together a monthly challenge. And this month's monthly challenge is calling in reinforcement. Whenever temptation hits, if you have the ability to acknowledge that, understand you don't want that, and you reach out to a buddy to say, hey, I'm feeling the heat, you know, can you pray for me or whatever? It immediately begins to evaporate because you're getting it out of the darkness and into the light. You're not fighting it yourself.
That's right.
And so do that 7 times in the month of March, you get a badge. Boom.
Yeah. I just think it's right. I mean, I think that by being able to text something like that, you're not kind of putting yourself out 100% yet.
The code word helps. Having the code word helps.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If I text Matt now, and I know I text you now, and you guys were to text me that you got 8 minutes, I know that I need to give this dude a call.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just think that is simple.
Yeah.
And I like simple.
It's a good mechanism.
I just like simple.
Yeah.
I don't like it being, and so that was kind of the you know, the feedback too on that little Insta reel was that, like, the guy, I think it was a girl, actually, it was one of his friends that was a girl, and she's like, well, I did reach out to you. And he's like, yeah, well, no, you didn't. She's like, look at all the texts I sent you. And he goes, how am I supposed to read into this?
Right.
How am I supposed to know that you actually really needed something?
Another woman just trying to, you know, let us know, but we just don't see the writing on the wall.
I mean, yeah, it's exactly right. We're sometimes don't connect, but I mean, but it's a great point though. Like, just to be direct.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what's crazy is if you, but you don't have to make it real complex.
Right. And not only that, but like just to say, hey, I'm a friend.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to listen to you. I'm not going to talk. I'm just willing to listen to you, open my ears.
Yeah.
And that's so much more than what we get in today's world often.
Totally.
So,
yeah,
you know, I think that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I just think it's really a neat deal. And you know, for people that are out there, you know, that need it, try to, you know, find somebody. At least I would challenge anybody just to tee the discussion up with them. You know what I mean? Like, if, you know, if somebody does hear it and they're like, hey, what's this all about? I would just challenge somebody, hey, if you're having coffee, having beers, having whatever with someone, be like, hey, man, if I were to use this, would you call me? Maybe they don't even know what it is, right? I mean, maybe they don't even know. I mean, I'm going to ask somebody that randomly, like, hey, man, if I texted you, hey, do you have 8 minutes for me? Like, what would that mean to you?
I think there's enough curiosity they call to check.
That's right. They're going to be like, what do you mean?
8 minutes for what?
Yeah. Right. And now you're in the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you're just automatically into it. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Man, if you can get your community on that, that's going to take it to the next level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. God's going to do that. So, I mean, that's the one thing that I've learned about this, man. I mean, there's so many times that I've run into allowing the evil one to work into my mind, right? I mean, Bobby Jones always says the game's played between the 6 inches, right?
Sure,
between your ears. Life's played a lot like that. And, you know, I just have learned to trust, man. I've always knew something was in me to kind of reinforce that. But I think, you know, going through the last 10 years and, you know, losing my brother, losing a lot of friends, quite frankly, around us. We, you know, my wife's dad and a lot of loved ones. My stepmom, I mean, geez, we've lost a lot of people in 10 years, but I tell you this much. I mean, Rusty came into my life the night my brother took his life, and it wasn't, if it wasn't for this walk that I've had with Jesus in the last 10 years, man, it would be a lot more difficult.
Yeah,
a lot more difficult. And we wouldn't be doing this. And I really enjoy doing it, man. I mean, we hope that people out there listening also, can understand that, like, we try to meet guys where they're at. We're so grateful to, these folks here at Indie Coffee Roasters to let us hang out in such a cool spot. Sometimes I wish I could spin the camera around and just show people kind of like what the cool sunset looks like in Main Street, and just the really, kind of cool. And when we come back here, because we'll keep doing these, we'll probably set up in some different spots in here. So just to give some people some different, different views. But man, I really appreciate it. Matt. I know, again, we started this out. You're a realtor here in Carmel. How do people get in touch with you if they want to?
Well,
what's the best way?
You can look at my Facebook profile.
That's fine.
I'm not super, savvy when it comes to marketing and websites and whatnot. But hey, man, dude, you have no idea.
I'll put you on our resource page, man.
You have no idea.
We kind of have this resource page. My guy, Mike Parsons, Mike laughs at me, but I'm like, Mike, we need to build this page. It's kind of like a marketplace. He's like, what do you want, man? Do you want a resource page or do you want a marketplace page? What is it that you want?
I want both.
I want both.
I want them all.
But no, I mean, I always envision this of people coming on, man, is being able to do that. You know what I mean? Is just being able to put it
plug it in there.
Yeah. So if people go to it and they go to the research and they're like, oh, wow, yeah, we can find a realtor on here.
Yeah. So yes, my name is Matt. And then
how do you pronounce your last name?
The last name is Sponaugle.
Okay, I did get it right.
So it's Sponaugle.
Sponaugle.
So nice. It's German, but otherwise
Sponaugle, like Sprats.
You sprechen.
Yeah.
So it's Sponaugle.
There you go.
But otherwise, just a real quick snippet in Carmel. Things are going in 8 days on average on market.
Okay.
Versus Fountain Square. And I was going to get there, but we kind of
jumped around. Yeah. That's usually what we do.
But
that's my fault.
Yeah. And or you can call me 317-258-0142.
Right on.
And or you can just meet me at the Indiana Design Center and ask for me, and I'll come there.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. When people come to you, what do they enjoy about working with you? What do you provide them from a realtor's experience that really helps them feel like, man, we picked the right guy?
It's very interesting, but I think that with my real estate career, everything has been relationships oriented. Mm-hmm. And my broker really kind of brought this to light to where he was like, start with your friends and family. That's where it starts. Because here's the deal. You're going to be more comfortable working with them and vice versa. So ultimately, it doesn't have to feel like a strange transaction. And so for me, I'm much different than my mother. My mother's a real estate agent as well.
Yeah.
But she's high energy, this, that, and the other. And me,
your mom is, man. I love her.
I'm so the yin to the yang.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. If what I would tell you, because I know him, it's his just laid back and like,
right.
Don't get people too hyped up. Yeah. And Matt's very transparent. You know what I mean? If somebody comes to him with something, he's like, yeah, I see it. I hear you.
And I think that's the thing is I don't hype anything up anymore. Yeah. Now, when I was 25 and I didn't know what I was doing, you hype things up and you sometimes don't know where you're hyping it up to. And then you find out that you told them the wrong thing or whatever. Yeah. And I think that's the thing is ultimately, to answer your question, it would just be me talking to you.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, look, I have your best interest. And or, hey, look, this really is black and white from my perspective, not Zillow's, not Realtor.com. And that's where information is flying at us so hard. But the wisdom, I've been doing it for over 20 years now. In a roundabout way. To where, I've also got my mom as well. Her wisdom's inside my brain as well.
Yeah.
Which I'm super lucky about. But I'd say that just me being me.
Is huge. Yeah.
Well, man, Matt, I appreciate you coming on, buddy. Will, thank you. So for everybody out there, we're gonna get Will teed up on another podcast here, probably in April is what we're looking at. Will, I know you and I talked about that. Mm-hmm. So we're going to dive into that little, I shouldn't say that little, but that world of kind of addiction to porn and so on again. because we know a lot of people are dealing with it. I think it's a great
Well,
topic to talk about, man.
Wild.
So
it's
yeah.
wild because, like, thinking about it,
yeah,
growing up, my mother, her boyfriend at the time, every time I'd walk into his house, he had Playboys on the coffee table.
yeah, that's no kidding. So for those of you out there, again, if you need to get in contact with us, you can reach out. You see kind of all of our Facebook, Twitter, blah, 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 blah. Like us and subscribe to our YouTube channel, though. That helps us out. And you can find us on our website at www.buildingarefuge.org. If you want to get in contact with us, Gmail is the way. So buildingarefuge@gmail.com. But we appreciate everybody listening tonight to the Bar, otherwise known as the Bar Podcast Mental Health Hour. So Matt, Will, thank you guys for joining us tonight, and appreciate it. Hopefully you guys will be back again sometime soon. And yeah, so if you're out there and you're listening, be nice to somebody, man. Check in on them, check in on your friends. You never know what they're going through, and reach out to them and ask them, man. Tell them you need 8 minutes time, because you'll never know how far it goes. So appreciate you guys all listening tonight. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Brandon.